It's 11 to 2 at News Talk 4BC. The next bloke we're going to talk with, we have him on the show fairly often. We have him on this radio station fairly often. And there's a serious side of him. But then there's a side that's not quite as serious. I'm talking about Andrew Wiseman, principal solicitor with Wiseman Lawyers. You see, Andrew, he's a font of wisdom and wise words. Wise man is just such a perfect name for him. And then if you if you check out some of the photos on Instagram, it's all different. What Andrew has been doing is taking photos of himself outside courthouses throughout the state, and he posts them on Instagram. And I want to out him for it. How are you, Andrew?
Yeah, good, Kim, yourself?
Oh, mate, I'm just having a look through some of these photos you post. Just delightful. Just delightful. What is the aim? You've obviously got a project in mind.
Well, not really. It's more of an afterthought. I guess, as you know, I service the entire state of Queensland, and it's one thing saying it or even writing on your website that you do it, but unless you can show people that you actually are at these locations, it's just hot air. So initially it was just more of here we are, here's a picture of me at Normanton in the Gulf Cafeteria. See, we really do go to these places. And then I started blogging just to try and give, people out there, 4BC listeners or potential clients a bit more information about what we do, the process, and I guess how we do it differently to anyone else who may wish to act for that person. And when I was doing these blogs, initially I was just putting stock footage up, but we all know that's a bit boring and repetitive, so I thought, well, my arm's the length of a selfie stick. I might as well start taking selfies at courthouses and using those images as, a bit of stimulus to go with the written word. And I guess a flow on from that was, well, I might as well whack it on Instagram as well. And I suppose Instagram, it's a bit more of a fun, like there's certain mediums that are all about getting the word across or educating or preparing clients for court, etc. But I suppose Instagram, it's all graphic, it's a bit of fun. And, as your listeners know, I always have a bit of a laugh during interviews with you guys, and even magistrates struggling to not have a bit of a chuckle in between serious comments that I make. Because at the end of the day, if you enjoy your job, it's hard not to have fun with it. It's hard not to have a laugh. But that's not to say that when it's go time, I don't have the game face on. But
that's it.
But, if it's life or death, go hard and keep it completely professional and serious. But if it's not life or death, there's no point pretending it is. And I was following on from that without taking up too much of your time. As much as I'm here to save people's licences, keep them out of jail, get the best outcome, I'm also there to take the problem away from them. So it's one thing fixing the legal problem, but they need someone who's, keep their mind at ease, be a bit jovial and try to distract them from the problem at hand, especially if they're at, high risk of jail. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Andrew, speaking of having your game face on, I noticed in all these Instagram photos of that you've taken of yourself outside different courthouses throughout Queensland, you have the same face every time. You have the same pose. How did you do that? That's brilliant.
Look, I've put a couple up in the last 24 hours that I've labelled vintage Wiseman, the smiling years. And that was like in the early days. Initially, it was like, oh, yeah, here I am, I'm happy. But I was looking at the photos, and I guess I look like I was 10 years younger than I am, and not to be taken seriously. So I stopped smiling, and and now all of a sudden I look like I'm about to kick someone's door in. But flowing on from that, people are making these Zoolander blue steel analogies and all the rest of it. But there's worse things that can be said.
But mate, what I got to ask, the one outside the Gladstone courthouse, what happened with the hair that day?
Look. I get a haircut and I shave 4 times a year, and in between it's left to its own devices, and plus there was a bit of wind up that day, so there's one on there when my beard was quite long and at Harvey Bay, and the beard's almost at right angles to my face, but that's all right.
Mate, just before we go, I want to try to get serious just for a moment.
Yep.
A couple of things, because we often have you on and you're talking much more sense than we're talking at the moment. And it's usually about issues, and a lot to do with motorists, often is the case. I want to just a couple of quick ones before we go and before we head to the weekend. Can you fight a speed fine if the zone has just recently changed? I've noticed that one place I drive, it's been 100 k's forever, and all of a sudden, without warning, I noticed the other day, oh, that's down to 80 now. How did that happen? Would I be any chance of fighting it if I got a speeding fine through that?
The short answer is no.
Oh.
It's not. Without going off track, using the analogy of about during the Bligh years, they changed back before the law was changed. I know I'm going off topic, but there's a reason for it. If someone over the age of 25 was charged with drink driving, when they'd served the end of their disqualification, it was time to get their licence back, they'd go back to a permissible blood alcohol of 0.05.
Mm-hmm.
The Bligh government changed it, but didn't bother telling anyone. So there was all these people who, and it was retrospective, so there was a year's worth of cases that had gone to court. Magistrate says, righto, when you get back, no worries. No one told them that they were going to be zero. Sorry, when I say they changed it so everybody went back to zero for 12 months on return of their licence.
Yep.
But no one told them. So here's all these mature aged people who, been done 0.07, served their disqualification, and then they go to get their licence back, and no one at Queensland Transport tells them about the laws changing, because obviously they hadn't at that point. And then 2 months later, Bligh changes the laws, doesn't tell anyone, and all of a sudden this person's now a permissible blood alcohol of 0, but they don't know about it. They have a Chardonnay after work, 0.02, bang, you're facing a minimum 3 months loss of licence. And I guess what I'm getting at is bringing back your question, as grossly unfair as that was, the simple fact that they didn't know that the law had changed was no legal defence.
Okay.
So, in answer to your question,
Gotcha.
a bit of a long-winded response, but the short answer is, unfortunately, no. The law expects you to be vigilant of the signs as they are in any form.
Now, Andrew, I need a short-winded response because I'm totally out of time. Can you fight a speed fine if you're driving through roadworks but there's no work currently on, but the sign says 80 and you're doing a bit more and there's no one working on the road, right through roadworks?
All that matters is what the number is on the sign.
Okay, good on you. Have a great weekend.
You too, mate. Have a great Australia Day.
Look forward to your next selfie. Thanks very much. Andrew Wiseman, Principal Solicitor from Wiseman Lawyers. It's 4 to 2 at 4BC.